Hi, welcome to Women Talk Construction. I'm Christi Powell. I'm your co-host. I'm here with Angela Gardner, our co-host. We have something really exciting to talk to you about today. We have a new guest co-host that's joining us today. We want to introduce her to you. You're familiar with her because she just was a guest on our show.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that was August the 10th. So if you want to go back and listen, you should. What Libby has to say is really, really cool. And she's got a lot of great experience in the construction industry that's going to help move the needle forward for Women Talk Construction and for all the other things that she's got going on, NAWIC camps, and just all the support she provides to the industry has been phenomenal. Today, we're going to talk about all of this through the lens of how real life work and life and education changes. You know, our needs change and why transparency matters so much for women in our industry. I'm also joined, Libby stepping into the co-host seat with us today is wonderful because it's going to give myself an opportunities to step back a little bit because I'm in a season of life that it's needed. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And thank you so much for listening. I hope if you're a woman leader that you don't feel like I did for 30 years in my career, where stepping back made me look like I was less than. And that is exactly how I felt for many years. So today, this conversation is important to all of you who are running too fast, doing too many things, and may find yourself exhausted right now. So thank you for being here. Thank you, Angela, Libby, for being on. And Libby, we are so excited about you joining us and helping us with the future of Women Talk Construction.
Well, thank you, Christy, for all of that. And, you're always here with me because in my heart, I love you. So y'all know who I am. I'm Angela, and I'm thrilled to be hanging out with Christy and Libby. Libby has become a really cool part of a friendship of ours throughout the years. She's visited Greenville. I've gotten to meet her in person. And so I'm really excited about this. Now, for me, having Christy transition and, of course, be so transparent, and why she has to step back and, which is such a powerful, leadership move in itself, because like she said, many of the times we feel like we have to do everything. And I have certainly felt like that in my career. And I know I've probably talked about it on this show occasionally, but we're going to take a deeper dive into all of that as we talk with Libby today and get you used to my new co-host. So, Libby, why don't you kick it off with the question number one?
Sure, I would love to, Angela. Thank you both for having me here. I am so honored to be stepping in as a guest host. And so I guess we just all want to find out from Christy, since you're the one transitioning right now. We'll start there. How do you personally recognize the tipping point where stepping back isn't quitting or failing, but actually a strategic leadership decision for your own growth and well-being?
Well, thank you. That's a great question, Libby. I think that I'd like to tell you that over the last 30 years, I've always done that, but I cannot tell you that. I can tell you that typically when I was finding out that I needed to make a change, not sure what it was, we don't always know what's coming, right? We're moving so fast. Typically it was my health, right? Things would happen. I didn't feel good. Something would, affect me, weight gain, maybe weight loss. There's been many things happen over 30 years that I can literally look back. One time I had an optical migraine, which caused me to miraculously pass out in the middle of a highway, and my car found its way to a doctor's care. I don't remember any of that. Next thing you know, the ER was picking me up. So I'd like to say that that is not what happened to me, but it is. We, as women, we feel like we have to do everything all the time, especially in a male-populated industry. We feel like we have to do twice as much to earn half as much credit. And I say that not in a bad way, but we do have to prove ourselves in situations where we're not seen as much. So I think this time I was a little more strategic than I've ever been. And honestly, when I started noticing that I really wasn't putting out the kind of work that I wanted to put out, and I wasn't coming fully as myself to the podcast, that's when I realized I had an opportunity to say, whoa, let me see if there's, somebody out there that would step in for me for a while. It's not fair to the podcast. It's not fair to our listeners, right? For me to come in on two wheels and leave on two wheels and not really be committed. And that's how I feel. I literally rolled in today on two wheels, like 15 minutes before I had to be on the podcast. So, I think that, and honestly, it was kind of an act of God. It was an act of God because when Libby got on to do our podcast, she asked, what do you need? And that was just a conversation Angela and I had. That was just a conversation. Not long before that. So the timing was perfect. And really, that's it, just understanding that I'm at my capacity. And I think that's really important for us as women to know when our families are getting neglected and we can't seem to step up to the plate when, we're spending time with our Creator, being able to meditate, all those things were just moved over to the side. And for me, that's one of the most important. My faith is one of the most important things to me in my life. And when I noticed that all the noise was getting bigger than the faith, that was also a good sign for me as well. So I hope that answers your question.
Wow, Christi, that was great. I know that a lot of women and men are gonna understand or at least gain something from what you just said. I mean, I need to be reminded of that continuously, because as women, well, really as people, we often do just feel like we have to take on everything and we immerse ourselves and we carry it all and we try to carry it all without dropping anything. And that's extremely hard. And it's not really good for our mental state at all. So recognizing that, that pause does protect our long-term impact on, our ultimate leadership maturity really is a sign of maturity. And actually, I think it's also a sign of emotional intelligence, right? I think of all the books I'm reading, I think they talk about that too. So let's move to question number 2. And Christi, why not?
Self-awareness, right? I think that's really the key to a lot of situations we find ourselves in this time of our lives. AI is out there. So that was a good point, Angela. I think self-awareness, just me noticing that I wasn't bringing my best self everywhere. Right. Mm-hmm. I think that does play into it. Anyway, something that you're really, really good at, Angela, is setting boundaries, at least since I've known you. Maybe you don't feel like it, but comparatively speaking to what my schedule looked like when I met you, I felt like you were pretty good at setting boundaries. So how do you master the art of saying no? And have you is a good question, especially to good opportunities. One of the things that I think that I've learned recently is when I say no, that allows me the time to say yes to something that might be more impactful and the right yeses. It was so easy to say yes to everything, but really and truthfully, you are hurting yourself and the world by saying yes to everything and not being strategic about what yes matters the most, right? Mm-hmm. So talk a little bit about your boundaries, Angela.
Yeah, I guess I've gotten decent at them now. Well, I mean, I was lucky enough. Y'all all know my career. I landed in my family business at a very young age, and I had some great mentors, and they happened to be females. And, I learned too that I couldn't do, like, I didn't start having kids until later in life. So I was able to take on a lot of things. And I guess just also knowing that I can only do so much, and that I have this perfectionism about myself, and that if I can't give 110%, then I don't need to be doing it. And so I learned early on that that was my gauge. And then I also learned through doing a lot of things what I like to do and what I didn't like to do, and who I liked to be around and who I didn't like to be around. And really, I think organizations and volunteering wasn't really my hard thing, because I pretty much caught that. My problem was the people I surrounded myself, setting boundaries around that.
Mm.
And so, but I have learned about that, and recently I have stepped away from something that was very dear to me,
Mhm.
but it was not healthy for me, and I was doing too much. So I can totally relate, Christy, to what you're going through. So, you know, I would just tell anyone, just if you have a mentor, talk to them, or if you have a dear friend, talk to them, or I even talk to my sister about this kind of stuff too. So talk to them as well. Seek guidance and do checklists and make sure that you really care about it and it's a priority in your life. Because if it isn't, then don't do it.
I love what you just said, Angela, about priorities. That's actually, if you were to ask me how difficult it is to say no to something, I think I've always had to have my priority list in check. And at the top of that list was always my children and my family, who I was raising at the time, in addition to a career. And just deciding, how much of time with my children or my family was I missing, or things that I couldn't take care of because I was saying yes to everything. And so I think once you're so career-minded and ambitious, it's almost like a catch-22, because opportunities do start to come your way without you even asking, right? So you're just out there putting yourself out there, either through the podcast or through running organizations or whatever have you, and people are automatically going to start asking you to do things. And it's very difficult. You do have to take a step back and say, does this fit into my life right now? We have only so many hours out of the day. Does it leave me time to do a workout? Does it leave me time to do a meditation? Does it leave me time to make dinner for my family, if that's a priority for me? And sometimes having those checklists mentally really, really helps me to say no. But I'm with you. Sometimes saying no makes you feel as if you just gave up something great, or you just gave up your next opportunity for something that's going to launch you into something else. And I sort of feel like if your intention is out there and it's pure, those opportunities have a way of coming around at the right time for you. So.
Exactly, Libby. That's awesome. That's so true. And a great reminder for me, right? Because it's not easy for me to be doing this right now. It really isn't. But I know that I need it. But also, I think if we want to build a more inclusive, sustainable industry, we have to model the life that other women can see when they get into construction, right? They need to see that you don't have to run yourself ragged to be able to perform the job well. You can still go home and you can still take care of your family. And I have not been a very good example of that. I mean, I'll just be honest, I have not. I'm probably better now in the last 5 years than I have been in my entire career. But pretending that we never struggle or need a breather doesn't help anybody want to come in behind us in the construction industry. Being honest about our transition builds real trust too with other people and other cultures. So I have another question for you, Libby. How about the flip side? So you have taken a breath. Once you are going to take a breath, because that's one of the things that the reason we talked on your podcast or before your podcast recently was that you were ready to step into something new. So what does that look like? And how do you intentionally step in to drive growth for yourself? And whether that's learning a new skill, which obviously doing what we're doing today is going to be a new skill for you, advancing your education, or shifting your career focus. What does that look like?
For me, truthfully, it's somewhat all of the above. I think when we start to look at our next chapter and what that looks like for us, It is a lot more. I try to, again, identify my priorities. And very luckily, I have 3 grown children now. My youngest is starting high school. So it's not a situation where he's attached to the hip any longer, sadly, but also maybe a little better for all of us in our time and our mental health is, we're not physically responsible for a little child anymore. And, I find that I want to use my time to grow myself. I want to use I've spent 25 years in this wonderful industry. And in the last 10 years, my focus has really been advancing women in construction. And so I always think back to like my own personal core values. What is it that is going to help me be a better person, a better mentor, a better, voice in this industry that can help other people? And so if it doesn't serve my own core values with that, it's often something that, that I don't think I would want to do. So case in point, I think I stepped into that podcast, no pre-plan, nothing whatsoever. I feel like that short story is worth sharing here to just say, I felt compelled to just ask you, hey guys, how's it going? What do you need help with? And that was not in my plan at all to have that discussion that day at that time with you. In fact, if anything, I have my plate full and everything is, beautifully where it's supposed to be. But it's just what aligned and called me to ask that question that day. So, I do believe that sometimes when you're called to do something, you have to honor your inner intuition and believe that it's guiding you in the right way. And if you are very faith-based, if you are very spiritual and know yourself really well, you oftentimes can make the right decisions that are just right for you and your path, especially for your growth.
I think it's really important too to remember that there are certain things that you are passionate about that don't feel like work, right? And that makes a huge difference, right? If you are overwhelmed, typically there is too much of the things that don't fuel you in your life, right? Because if you've got things that really keep you passionate during the day, and Angela's really good at this, it just helps you to get through some of those things that aren't as you're not as passionate about, right? Like, I don't love paperwork. Do I love it being right? Absolutely. Do I love sitting down to do it? Absolutely not. But is it a means to an end? Absolutely, right? If we don't have things, processes and systems in order, we can't do it. What I love is the mental clarity that you have to invest in yourself. Thanks for sharing that with the audience. I think that's really important. And following your inner voice. And obviously, I'm, very, very excited that you were following your inner voice when I was actually thinking about what am I going to do if I need to take a step back? And it was just the timing was perfect.
Something divine, I think, spoke to all of us at that time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And grateful to Angela for feeling comfortable and allowing me to be in this space with you all. I'm so grateful for it.
Well, we love you, and you get that growth is discomfort as well. I mean, we all do because we're all there at times, and pivoting your energy towards what truly moves the needle for your future is really where it's all at. In fact, you just said that so beautifully. You and Christi did. So, that brings us right to the final question. And Christi, guess what? It's your turn.
Oh gosh. Okay. So our final question is, while we're looking ahead, how do we build sustainable leadership models? And this is probably going to be a quick question. We didn't want to take, hour to talk about all of these transparencies we have today, but both individually and as an industry, so that stepping back and stepping in become normal, healthy part of someone's life, rather than a crisis for everyone. How do we look ahead and build that sustainable leadership model, other than obviously leading by example?
Well, I mean, I think it comes down to building, strong teams and trusting them completely, like you and I do, Christi. I mean, we have some amazing, incredible people on our team at Talk Construction. Michael edits all of our episodes, plus he does all the website. editing, everything, blog, everything. He does everything. And then Hayden, our intern, which we hired, she's going to be going to college next year, and she helps us with all the other details. And then now we have Libby stepping in to help us with, and I think she's going to add even more to our show, with just like figuring out new content, new ideas. And now that we're actually doing some things with our actual members and having these book clubs, we'll be able to even expand on that. So, this all makes a difference. So when you build a culture of trust and shared responsibility, nobody has to carry the world on their shoulders alone, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more, Angela. Sustainable leadership, I think, means recognizing that our careers are marathons. They're not sprints. And, when you're in it, you have to realize you're in it for the long haul. And that means sharing the load, communicating transparently, and giving ourselves the grace to pivot. I love the word grace because I think we all could use some of it, a lot of it. Yes, and give each other grace. And then we create a roadmap that isn't just successful, but actually sustainable for everyone for the long haul.
Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you both again. We're really excited to see what the future of Women Talk Construction looks like. Having others like Libby just giving their perspectives and just a different set of eyes and ears view of what this looks like and how we can build this for you, our listeners, is the most important thing to Angela and I. So we are really proud that Libby's on our team, and you haven't heard the last of me. I will be back in every now and then, and I'm really looking forward to just spending more time with my daughter who's getting ready to get her doctorate in physical therapy, and helping her, somewhat with some of those college applications. They aren't super easy, and she's 19. To be able to go after her doctorate at 19 it's pretty overwhelming. And so mom wants to help. And my husband, Michael, which Angela mentioned earlier, he does edit our podcast, but he's also got some things that he's working on that he needs my support in. So it's going to be really exciting to kind of pivot my life back to a kind of a normal, with a full-time job and not 7 more activities on the side for a moment. But like I said, we are very excited Libby, Angela, and I are very excited to just make this a better podcast platform for everybody that's listening. We're in over 200 countries now, I believe. And it's just mind-blowing how needed this podcast was when we started it in 2022, March of 2022. So we were very passionate about not stopping it. And so Libby coming in and saying, "Hey, what do you need?" Was, like I said, the perfect timing, but also the perfect amount of grace, right? And giving myself some grace to step back. That was a big thing for me. I don't always do that. I always feel like I am a failure, but I just know that you are going to love the conversations between Angela, Libby, and our guest. And we're probably going to do a few podcasts together with a guest, the three of us. So we're looking forward to an exciting future. Thank you both for everything that you do. And thank you, Libby, for stepping in for a while.
Thank you so much.